LPD 1041.
Signalton assistance.
Inside the Squad, presented by the Lafayette Police Department. To serve and protect is not just a motto, it's our mission.
Sending another unit.
Step it up.
Ring us in, Cole.
All right. Welcome back to Inside the Squad podcast with Lafayette Police Department. I'm Officer Anderson. I'm here with MK, Sergeant Verma, and Officer Music. And today we're going to be discussing just some of the recruitment process.
That was great. What a natural.
Yeah. Cole's the new podcast. He's going to run the podcast.
I think you've been replaced, Sean.
Okay. I think
Please
you replaced me a long time ago. All right. Well, like Cole said, welcome back. And today's episode, we're going to be discussing our recruitment process, the entire hiring process, the training. We're going to talk a little bit about our academy here in Indiana, which is called ILEA down in Plainfield. And then we're going to be talking about Officer Anderson and Officer Music and their experience so far with the Lafayette Police Department and how they got hired on and basically a little bit of history about them. So we can start with Cole. Cole, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, what's your badge number? What brought you here?
Okay. I'm Officer Cole Anderson, badge 506. Came to Lafayette just because they were open. They had availability. Some positions when I was looking for work. We're getting close to graduating college, and it was actually the only application I put in. So thank God it all worked out.
Where'd you go to college?
Western Illinois University, so over in Macomb, Illinois, middle of nowhere farm country. You only get there if you're trying to. You don't just happen to go through Macomb. But yeah, really good law enforcement program there. And one of my professors was telling me, if you want to go to a bigger city, not like Indy, but something comparable. They have all the funding and all the fun, but not as overwhelmed. So
Yeah.
Lafayette fit that criteria, and I was like, that's the only one I have to go off of, so we're going to go there.
Right on. And that was
Nice.
about 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, that would have been May of 23.
Cool. Music, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Officer Tearcy Music, badge number 520. So how I ended up in Lafayette was I went to Manchester University, got my Bachelor's of Science in Criminology, and then I worked for the Indiana State Department of Child Services with Tippecanoe County, so that's how I ended up in Lafayette. And then through working with them, I built a relationship with the investigations department here at Lafayette, and that's kind of how I bridged over from DCS work to now becoming a police officer.
Now, both of you are in the military, right?
Correct.
What branch of the military are you guys in?
I'm in the Army Reserve.
Okay.
I'm also in the Army Reserve.
All right. So that's like one of the things with LPD is, we accommodate our servicemen and women that are in the military, and both of you are still active, right?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So I know we get a lot of questions from people that are in the military. I'm actually working with 2 right now that are actively in the military. So we do accommodate that. So let's get into a little bit of when you decided to apply with the Lafayette Police Department. We'll start with Cole because the process kind of changed since when I applied, my process was very similar to what you went through, which was very long, drawn out.
For sure.
And you just didn't know if you were going to have a job a year from when you actually put the application in. So let's talk about that process a little bit so we can set the picture for what Music went through, because we kind of made some changes to make it better.
Yeah. I think I put in my application sometime February of 23. It was on the police app website, had to pay the fee, all that, get my cover letter submitted, all the good stuff that you typically think of. And then I had to wait for email back to be like, okay, you can come and do the physical test and the written test. So I drove 4.5 hours out to Lafayette from college and had I think it was maybe 3 hours at most for both the written test and the physical test. Then they were like, all right, we'll let you know if you move on after this, you can go back home. And so I left, drove all 4.5 hours back, and waited another week or so until I heard anything for the next phase, which, remind me again, that would have been the polygraph.
Yeah, so after your written and physical, they would have called you back to do a polygraph exam. Yeah.
Yeah, so then came back for the polygraph, had to fill out a whole big questionnaire on just different things about my life, past history. things they would want to bring up during the polygraph examination. And that, again, another long drive came out. It ended up being, I think, right around an hour. So not a very, I guess, comparable drive distance to actual time here. So then I had to go all the way back, wait another like week or so to hear anything else on if I'm moving on to the next phase, which would have been the captain's board. And then same thing, packed up my suit, drove all the way out here, changed in Lafayette in my car, then went in, had the interview, and that was maybe 30 minutes. And then they're like, yep, we'll see you for the next event. And so it was just kind of that process the whole time, which was good because at each phase I got to really see more of the department, more of the people, and kind of just make some observations, like if this is something I want to continue to pursue, or is this maybe something that's not in my best interest right now. And I think, that's pretty much what I got on that process so far.
About how long would you say that entire process took?
That process for me was 3 months. I think it was beginning of, or 3.5 months, beginning of February to the middle of May.
Okay.
And that also included your background,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Yeah. So did anybody from LPD come to your house or apartment doing your background?
Yes, Sergeant Walters was doing mine, and
Okay.
we were actually back home on spring break, and we live over by Danville, Illinois, so it's like an hour away from here, which is
Yeah.
a lot better. So he didn't have to drive the 4.5 hours to come to our college. He just showed up at it was my in-laws' house, and talked to me there.
So from the point that you submitted your application to the day of your actual swear-in, so your swear-in is the official date, right, of your start. What was that, like 3.5, almost 4 months, or more than that?
I think it was
What was your
probably
swearing
3.5.
date?
My swearing date was May 19th of 23.
Of 23, and you applied. When did you actually submit the application? Like February?
I want to say February 13th of 23.
Okay. So yeah, just a little over 3 months then.
Mhm.
Yeah. So now that was very similar. My process was even longer. When I applied in like July, and I didn't have my merit board until December. So
Wow.
yeah, so like you submit an application, then you would wait like 2 or 3 weeks just to find out if your application was approved. Then they would be like, hey, your application has been approved. Here's the next testing date. And I think when I came in, I don't know if you remember how many people showed up for your testing, but I had over 100 applicants that I competed against. And then they basically, they don't tell you if you pass your exam or not. Obviously, you know your physical if you pass that, but your written exam, you didn't know because back then they used to send the exam off to be graded. And then you would get an email like 2 or 3 weeks later saying, hey, you've moved on to the next phase. And then you get a date for polygraph. Then you get a date for your captain's board interview. And then you're going through the background phase. And there was just a lot of waiting. And
Yeah.
I was in college, so I wasn't in a rush, but I can only imagine that being super inconvenient for someone that's ready for a job, that's out of college, and their entire life is on pause. So because of that, because we noticed how long it was taking, LPD decided to change the hiring process a little bit, and we call it the LPD Combine, which is what Tearcy went through, right?
Yes.
So kind of walk us through your process.
So whenever I applied, I submitted my application around Christmas time of 2023. And then my combine was the first week of January. That combine day, it started out with your written exam, and they were kind of just weeding people out as we went through the process. So we would take our written exam, wait 10 minutes, and then they dismissed the people that didn't pass the exam. And then we'd move right into the physical. The people who didn't pass the physical were then passed on. And then we had about, I would say I had an hour or so to change and get ready for my captain's board interview. I then did my captain's board interview, and then I got to schedule my polygraph that day. And then a couple days before even the combine, I was able to fill out all of my background investigation paperwork. So that one was already submitted by the time I did my polygraph. I did my polygraph about a week later. And then a couple weeks after that, I started the background investigation process, and I was sworn in by March. So from the first week of January to March 15th was my process.
All right, yeah.
3
So
months.
like, yeah, and now it's like even shorter because I think when we did yours, your polygraph was just a little. We were still figuring out scheduling for polygraphs and stuff. So now, when you come in for your combine, we start polygraphs. So usually combines are on a Saturday, and we start polygraphs the following Monday.
Yeah.
And we're done with the polygraphs by the following Friday. So within 1 week, we're done with who's going to the background phase of the hiring process. And back when Cole and I went through that alone was a 2-month process, almost 2.5 month process. So we're knocking that out in 1 week and a day. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, which is really helpful bringing people to Lafayette. So I think that process is a way. Did you like the process? Did you think it went good for you, like smooth?
Yeah, it was actually really convenient too. So all of my paperwork was online. So through the portal that we used. So all my paperwork was online. I didn't have to fill out a ton of stuff and like bring it in. I was able to upload everything. And then I always had updates and I knew exactly what I was doing next. I knew that it was always going to be within a week or two that I'd hear back from somebody. So it was super convenient. It was quick. And there was quite a bit of people at my combine. So it was cool to see the process of like how many people you started with. And then during those weekly checkups, you kind of got to see how it went down to just the 4 of us that ended up getting hired.
And then kind of hit on like, for both of you, I mean, we all have gone through the polygraph. I can tell you that I wasn't comfortable during my polygraph. That was probably one of the like the scarier parts of the whole process. But like the background, like how did you guys feel? Was that a little like nerve-wracking? Were you nervous? Were you a little like, oh gosh, they're really getting into all kinds of stuff?
Not really. I mean, for the Army, you have security clearance checks and stuff, so nothing new there. And I'm not concerned about my background, so I was A-okay with it.
But were you surprised by like how deep LPD goes into?
I was impressed with that part. I think that was one of the things that I liked about our hiring process was how thorough it was, because due to just like lack of, I guess, available manning for a lot of departments, they started laxing some of their requirements.
Yeah.
And to see Lafayette maintaining their standards and not giving in to just, oh, we need more people, so we're going to make it easier for people to get on. They were still vetting quality candidates, which I really appreciated.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you feel the same way?
Yeah, it was super in depth. I think that everybody kind of gets a little nerve-wracked whenever you're doing a background invest, because then you think about every single thing you've ever done wrong in your entire life before it happens. So I just kind of overthought the process. But once I like had my polygraph, I was super comfortable with my investigator. And then from the background invest of that, it was really in depth, but it wasn't to the point where like I was super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But they do ask some pretty deep questions, and they really want to know who you are as a person. So
I think one of the like common questions we get when we changed our process to the combine method was people thought that, oh, are you guys sacrificing the quality of the hiring process of an officer? And I will say that LPD did not do that. So if there is one step during the hiring process that is a little bit lengthier, that is our background part. So when we're doing our background, we do still get very in depth, and I say we normally knock a few people out of the process during the background because we're still looking for quality officers like the two of you, and that's who we want. So we did not sacrifice our quality.
Yeah. And the process has gone a lot more efficient, going from Cole's 6 months to 3 months while still maintaining the quality. But I don't think we should. I feel like listeners might get a little bit scared because of everything involved with this. But you shouldn't be. Like, the whole process is just so LPD can get to know you and see the whole picture in person.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking for quality applicants, so if people that are listening, if they feel like Cole said, he was never worried about anything, and we're looking for those type of people that have good qualities, and that's what we want to see, those applicants. But kind of moving forward now, like we went through your hiring, you guys officially get sworn in. The swearing in ceremony is it's more of just a get to know you, everyone gets to see you, but really that's the official start date. The real learning begins the following Monday in your training. So what did you guys go through with like our in-house training, the academy? How did all that go?
So after my swearing, I think I had about a week break, and then we went into LPD's in-house training. Mine was 8 weeks long, and it was classroom portions of everything that we would need to know, and plus our 40-hour pre-basic certification through the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy. So we went through criminal law, we went through traffic law, report writing, interview techniques, traffic stops, OC spray, taser. So you kind of got almost a condensed version of the academy, so you could start your field training. After that 8 weeks was done, then I completed 2 phases of FTO, and then I went to the academy and came back and then finished up.
Do you feel like our in-house training kind of prepared you for the academy?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
it was super helpful because you kind of, some of the applicants at the academy that get hired on, they'll have no prior training with their department. So they're going into everything blind. Whereas LPD, you already had that criminal law class. So you kind of already know the main topics of criminal law before you go in. So you're not learning a brand new topic. It's already like a refresher instead.
yeah.
Did they expect you to know anything coming in, or do you learn everything in the classroom?
You learn everything. I think you're expected to have like a somewhat grasp of.
To the academy or for in-house?
Academy.
Yeah.
Yeah, academy, I think they plan on you having at least like pre-basic or something done.
But it's not a requirement.
What did you think about that process, Cole? Like
The
having
in-house?
our training and then transitioning to the academy?
I think our in-house really prepared me and my other like recruits in the class with me to do well at the academy. One of the things I really appreciated about our in-house was just the thoroughness of what we did and the quality of trainers we put forth. So I remember we had Lieutenant Long come in and he gave us our criminal law, and that was just awesome. Like, it was a good time. He went really into depth on things and explained a lot. Gave us the good little mnemonic for the misdemeanor exceptions, and slightly changed now, but still remember it. Bold IU pitch. And then we had Officer Shock, now Sergeant Shock, teach us our active shooter training, and we went to one of the schools and actually did scenarios after we had our classroom. So we broke down just movement patterns and stimulus-based movement or indicator-based movement and all these things that just really prepared me for active shooter training at the academy, because we did some scenarios there.
Yeah.
And then Officer Chapman gave us some building clearing. So we went over like, how do you pie corners? How do you enter rooms? What's your footing, like your footwork and all that. And then Officer McCormick doing the range and orientation. Like, we went so in depth that by the time, because like Tearcy, I completed 1 phase of FTO before I went to the academy. By the time I got out to the street, like, I felt pretty comfortable that, oh yeah, I can do some things here. I'm not just a liability for my FTO. Like, I can actually help out. I remember things. I can at least get on the computer. I know where I'm going for certain calls. So all in all, I would say very, very helpful. And like I said, just the quality of the instruction there, because it's also smaller groups. So we can get more in depth, and if they see you're struggling with something, they're able to, okay, let's address that and let's get the whole group up to speed, and then we can move on to something else. At the academy, they have a very like strict schedule, and so it's like, hey, if you're not getting it, like, you can meet after hours, but like, it's got to go on. So you got to kind of balance the two. But then, yeah, at the academy, we already had that criminal law knowledge, a bunch of case law knowledge. So those were pretty easy, I would say.
Yeah.
Just a refresher, really, not brand new stuff. And then all like the motor skills. So like, we did DTs, we did firearms, we did driving here. So again, not learning it new there. It's just a good refresher.
So you mentioned phases. Can we go over the 4 phases at LPD? What are they?
Yeah, so we have 4 phases of FTO. Phase 1 is an observation phase. Phase 2, you're observing certain calls, but you're also helping your FTO out more with those calls, so you can start taking statements and running people's identities and kind of gathering information while your FTO is also working. Phase 3, you're expected to take the calls, and then it kind of flip-flops. Like, your FTO is now kind of helping you out, and then you're doing the majority of the work. And then phase 4, you're doing it all, and your FTO is observing you. So it kind of flips from you observing the FTO, helping the FTO to the FTO now helping you, and then observing you do the work.
And do you have the same FTO during the
No.
entire?
So you switch FTOs every phase. All of my FTOs have now promoted to sergeant or detective. So I had very good FTOs that were doing great things in the department. So they were great guys to learn off of. And you got to see different styles. So every officer might have their own way of doing things. Some are more bubbly and outgoing and self-initiating, and then some are more let the calls come to you. Some prefer certain types of calls over others. So you kind of got to see a more wide realm of the types of calls we get with different FTOs.
Did that sort of allow you to observe all the FTOs and take the best qualities to,
Yeah.
take it
So
out?
I can tell you that like I took a lot of my report writing techniques from my first phase FTO, and then I took a lot of like my tactics from my phase 2 FTO. So I kind of got to pick out my favorites from each one and apply them to my own style of how I do things.
And I would probably say that the most challenging part of the entire training, I would probably say, is the 4 phases of the FTO program, right? Like, we prepare you for in-house training because we don't know when you're going to go to the academy. So we want to make sure that you have at least basic knowledge of how to police. So when you're in the squad car with your phase 1 FTO, like Cole said, you're learning, but you also have some background knowledge where you can still help here and there for simple things. But academy, we prepare you for that. That's mostly more like academics, right? You're learning a lot, lots of classroom time.
Very much so.
You only have, how many breakout weeks do you guys get?
When I went, we had driving, shooting, DTs, SFSTs. Was there something else?
So they have Evo, they have the DTs, physical tactics, right? And then they have the range. And SFST is a new thing. We didn't used to have a breakout week.
Yeah, we had a
for
whole
that.
breakout week.
Yeah.
And stops.
And
Traffic
traffic stops. That's right. Yeah. So that's really the only time you guys are doing anything that's outside the classroom, right? That's
Correct.
like active, right? So when you're at the academy, that's challenging in its own way because you're away for 16 weeks. You're not home. There are positives of being there because you get to network. I'm still really good friends with my roommates that I went to the academy with. So you do get to meet like good people, but it kind of sucks being away for 16 weeks. And sometimes some of the feedback I get from our LPD officers is that they like our in-house training so much that when they go to the academy, they feel like, well, I already did all this. Like, I already know all this. But the purpose behind that for our listeners is we want to prepare you as well as possible so you can be successful when you go to the academy and not worry about, oh, man, am I going to pass the academy or not? Like, we're gonna make sure you go to the academy and pass and come back. And then the real challenge is the 4 phases because that's the real work. That's when everything you've learned, you're now putting it together and your FTO sitting there grading you.
Right.
Was it intimidating?
FTO?
Yeah.
Oh,
How did
absolutely.
you feel?
Absolutely. I had Sergeant Souders for my phase 1, and very intimidating man. I was like, I don't know if he likes me, if he doesn't, if I'm doing things right. He was very just kind of neutral in everything, which is good. You're not like constantly looking back like, okay, am I doing something right? Like, is he grimacing? Is he smiling? Like, okay.
Was that Blue Nights with us?
That was Blue Days. I was with LaRue, Sergeant LaRue, when I was with you on Blue Nights.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I would say like FTO was a very intimidating process, but I think LPD does it in a good way where they identify your needs as a recruit, and then that FTO, when they have their FTO meetings, will bring those up, and then they'll pair you with an FTO for your next phase that can help you in those areas you're struggling in. And so I think that's something really, really special about our FTO program. I don't know if other places do that or not, but I know it just helped me out a ton because coming into it, I was good with like all the criminal law stuff. I knew like the statutes, but then doing more like interdiction type stops. Like if you haven't done those before and trying to like catch cars and stuff that are trying to like evade you, it's very like nerve wracking. Like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And so I'm a rule follower by nature, and I'd be like, oh, well, I'm not going to just start gunning it right now when they're taking off. And so I needed FTOs that would push me to be a little more, okay, like let's get on the gas and let's do this stuff. And so they brought me to my phase 2 FTO who was really good about that. And I think that really helped me grow more into that. And now I really enjoy trying those interdiction stops and warrant services and stuff like that. So
that's where the fun is.
Yeah.
And I think Lafayette's a great city where you get to do a variety of different things. Part of that is interdiction. So you can do traffic, you can do interdiction. You can just be the person that likes to just go to calls for services. I mean, we offer a little bit of everything. So now you guys both have successfully, you got out, when did you get out of the program?
March of 24.
March of 24 is when you completed the FTO program. And then Tearcy, you just recently got released on your own, right?
Yes, on Valentine's Day was my release date.
How did that feel? When you guys finally got the keys to the squad car, you're now officially on your own.
So awkward, but so good at the same time.
Yeah.
Because you're like, each phase is roughly like 4 weeks. And so you have about 4 months with someone in the passenger seat with you or you in the passenger seat. And your FTO is kind of your safety shield. Like, they make sure you're not violating anybody's rights or like you're doing everything right. And then you get in that car and you look over and there's just no one there. And you're like, oh, this is real. Like,
yeah.
I'm expected to know everything now.
Yep.
And it's a rewarding feeling, but it's also a very weighty one because now you know, like, okay, I have a lot of responsibility on me.
Yeah, I feel like there's no other feeling than like your first day in your own squad car by yourself. Be like, I can take the calls that I want to take. I can set the AC to the temperature that I want in the car. I can put my go bag in the front seat and not have to go to the trunk for everything. So it's kind of like that, yes, freedom at last, but you still always have your partners. So even though you don't have somebody in the front seat with you, if you still need help, I mean, you still have 3 to 4 other guys that you're working with in your assigned zone. So you're not alone, but you get your own car. So you still have your partners to have your back too.
You don't have somebody hovering over you.
Exactly.
24/7.
You can make a wrong turn and no one knows about it.
And no one knows about it.
No one's knocking you on your
How common
observation
is
report.
that, going the wrong way?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's awesome. Like, I mean, that's a great feeling. I still remember when I got released and had my own car, and I was super excited. I think I made like 20 traffic stops. I was just like nonstop. It was a good time. But it is rewarding because that shows that you've now successfully completed all the requirements, and now you're building your own career, right, for whatever you want to do for the future here at LPD. So for a lot of our listeners, I think the biggest thing that we promote here at LPD is, if we hire you, if you make it through our hiring process, we're going to do everything in our powers to make sure you're successful here. So that means pairing you up with an FTO that you're going to work well with, identifying your weaknesses so we can strengthen those with an FTO, getting you through the academy, getting you through, how was PT? You guys both joined us at PT during in-house, right? So that's another thing. Oh, how physically fit do I need to be a police officer? And I would say you need to be physically fit to be a police officer, right?
Sure.
I mean, it's a demanding job. So if you can't pass our physical during Combine Day, then you probably need to have some self-awareness and work on yourself before you come back again. But if you make it through that and you get hired on, expect to have a lot of PT. Do you guys remember doing PT with us during in-house?
Yeah, so I think my first 4 weeks we did PT all together in the mornings before class actually started. So around like 6:30 in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, we'd meet up and do PT all together. And then at 8 o'clock, we would actually start the classroom or activity portion of the day for the first 4 weeks. And then that kind of laid like a foundation, especially for the officers that wouldn't normally have like a regular workout routine. It kind of laid a foundation for them to be able to establish their own workout routine. Like, okay, this is what I need to be doing before or after work, and this is how long I need to be doing it, and these are the things that they want me to work on. So,
did you have Lieutenant Shear?
I did.
Did you too?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm still hurting. He hurts me every morning. So, but that's like really good because we drilled that into you that, hey, just because you're only PTing with us for the first 5 weeks, that doesn't mean that you don't continue this on for the rest of your career. And again, we provide those resources here. We have a brand new gym. We have a perfect CrossFit gym over at our training center. So all the facilities are here for everyone to be successful. So anyone that's listening, we are a great place to work, and we'll provide all the resources you need.
And just a caveat off that, when we were doing our in-house, Sergeant Walters, he's CrossFit trainer.
Yep.
I think maybe level 2, I forget which one.
He is. He's level 2, yeah.
But he took some time and he showed us movements and how to use the different machines, like the assault bikes, the rowers, the skiers, and just going over everything to make sure not only did we know what to do, but how to do it so we could do it in a way that would promote strength and not injure us.
Yeah. I think we call that intro to fitness.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yep. So we do that. That's one of the first things we do as soon as you're hired on is we take you over to the gym and teach you everything. Well, to kind of wrap things up, Cole, where can we see you in 5 years?
In 5 years?
Where do you want to be at LPD in the next 5 years?
Man. Next 5 years. If I'm not a sergeant by then, hopefully you'll find me on detectives somewhere, maybe special victims. I have a real passion for that. I've enjoyed some of those calls. It's not ever a fun day when you have those calls, but I think the payoff from being able to do a good job and just really knowing you've helped someone and made a big impact to bring justice or bring closure is really, really rewarding.
Yeah,
So.
I would agree with you. That's a very special unit, so that's awesome. What about you, Music?
I also have a similar goal. With my previous job with DCS, I really developed a passion for especially child victims. So I would love to be up in detectives if that's a possibility in 5 years. So I guess we'll see who gets there first, Anderson.
Oh, all right. Oh, boy.
It's a challenge.
Hey, that's awesome. You know, when I first got hired on, I wasn't even thinking. Like, I was like, okay, in 5 years, I want to be a detective or I want to be part of our street crimes unit. But back then, nothing was opening. There was like zero opportunities. It's like, okay. And then I took the leadership route and I promoted, right? So it's always good to have goals and continue to work towards those goals. So awesome. Well, congrats on getting released and being on your own. And I think I always say that the real learning starts now because you're alone in your squad car, so you're going to be learning a lot. So
Absolutely.
Congrats and be safe and enjoy.
Thanks for having us, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Awesome.
All right. Until next time.